All right, now this. A federal judge in Texas blocking that state's request to put the anti-sanctuary city law into effect early. Joining us now, Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick. Okay, so you wanted to put the law into effect early. The judge said, no, you can't do that. How big a setback is it?
Well, it's not a setback, Stuart. Actually, the law takes effect September 1, which was the plan. What our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, attempted to do in this court was take a preemptive strike and say this is constitutional. We know that Senate Bill 4, which we passed months ago, is clearly constitutional because it's based in part on Arizona law that was held up by the United States Supreme Court. So we know it's constitutional. But when I was with you last week, you'll recall we were talking about the difference of how many states are now held by Republicans and Republican governors and legislatures and lieutenant governors. Well, the truth is we now know that a cost of doing business in politics at the state level is always being sued by the Democrats because they're out of power, they don't have much clout. So every time we pass an important piece of legislation that America wants to pass, they sue us. We'll win eventually in court as this goes up the ladder.
Yes, but it takes time, doesn't it? I mean, you're going to be sued endlessly, and it'll keep going up the ladder. Meanwhile, you cannot impose that new law until you've got the court situation settled down. So you really have a delay here, don't you?
Well, not quite, because there's a second case in San Antonio, which is actually now that will impact the law coming September 1. So this was just a case saying was the bill constitutional, and the judge decided that we'll go to trial on that. The case of actually that would stop the law September 1 is in San Antonio. Now, there's a Democrat judge there. We'll see how he rules, but we know that we'll win eventually. All the major legislation we've passed, Stuart, has always been challenged by the courts, and we win almost all of the time. It takes time, but it takes time to do the right thing by the American people. Remember when I was with you last week, I gave you those stats of sanctuary cities, and that's why we passed this bill in large part, anti-sanctuary cities. In the last 6 years, Stuart, alone in Texas, and I know your panel talked about this afterwards, just in Texas, in the last 6 years, we've arrested over 2,000 criminal aliens. We've charged them with over 600,000 crimes, including over 1,200 murders, 6,500 sexual assaults, 72,000 assaults, 72,000 drug offenses, 750 kidnappings. Sanctuary cities must be banned in this country. And if it takes a little while longer to get through the courts, that's what we'll do.
Sir, I do believe that public opinion is moving in your direction rapidly, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. Very clear. It's the #1 issue. And one other stat I'll give you, it's very interesting since you mentioned CNN. Remember when Jim Acoustic from their network was talking about the new policy by President Trump that you had to speak English to come into this country? He said it would only be Brits and it would only be Australians. Well, he's just really uninformed, like many people in the mainstream media outside of Fox are. Here are the facts. After America, the #4 top English-speaking countries in the world, it's India, Pakistan, the Philippines, and Nigeria.
Thank you very
England
much.
doesn't even make the top 5.
I'm glad you recognize CNN right there. Do you know that I was the first person to broadcast for CNN from New York back in 1980? That's my claim to fame. Okay.